Welcome to the Risk Never Sleeps podcast, in which we learn about the people that are on the front lines protecting patient safety and delivering patient care. I'm Ed Gaudet, the host, and today I am pleased to be joined by Martin. Is it Willemink?
Yeah, Willemink. Yeah.
Willemink. I was going to say that, but I didn't. I missed it. Willemink. Originally from Holland, right? Amsterdam area. Utrecht, I think is what you said.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, Utrecht, just a little east of Amsterdam.
And you're in San Diego now.
That's right. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, good to have you on the show. So a little wired, not sure where this is going to take us today. I've had copious amounts of caffeine, but let's start off with sharing with our listeners a little bit about your current role and your organization.
Yeah, definitely. So my current role is I'm a co-founder at a startup company called SecMed. I recently transitioned from the CEO role to the Chief Scientific Officer role. So right now, my current role is Chief Scientific Officer. The organization that I co-founded, SecMed, is a company that helps hospitals and healthcare providers with making their data, imaging data, available for research purposes. So what we have done is we have built a technology to plug into the IT systems of these healthcare providers. We de-identify the data, we standardize the data, we make it possible to search and filter through the data, and then we are actually able to license that data to researchers, which can be medical device companies, big tech companies, healthcare technology companies, radiology AI companies, whatnot. Anybody that needs data for research purposes can license data.
Where are you in your journey?
We are about 6.5 years old as a company.
Right.
We have raised a little over a year ago our Series A, which was a little more than $10 million. So in total, we've raised $20 million, 35 people. So we are not a unicorn yet, but we are on the way. We're a growing startup company.
Who are some of your investors?
Some of the well-known investors are Y Combinator, which is an accelerator program in the San Francisco Bay Area, which we went through. We have other investors in, like our Series A round, for example, was co-led by the venture arm of a large health system in the US, Advocate Health, together with iGen Partners, which is a healthcare VC, healthcare-specific VC firm.
Yeah, congrats. First company?
Yes, first real company.
What makes this so real?
Well, this is a real company, as in we're making good revenue, we're hiring people. As a student, I was, building websites and those kind of things, like building the local tennis club website so that I could tennis for free, those kind of things. But this is a real company now.
Who's your favorite tennis player?
Actually, I'm not a good tennis player. I just did it for a couple of years because I build websites, so I could do it for free. But I'm not a good tennis player.
Do you watch it? Do you like to watch it?
No, I don't watch sports. I love sports, but I don't like to watch sports.
I see that surfboard. I assume you surf.
Yeah, that's similar. Like I'm from the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, we don't really have waves. But living in San Diego now and having lived in California for, 8 years now or so, you have to try a little bit. So I definitely try every now and then, but I wouldn't call myself a good surfer.
I was just in San Diego. Did you go to AI Med?
Yes.
All right.
That's where I met your brother, actually. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Excellent. Yeah. That was a good event. What'd you think?
I liked it. It was my first time. It was actually, I was surprised because I'm in the medical imaging space, that there's quite some interest in medical imaging at that specific conference. So it was actually a good conference for me to go to.
Any takeaways?
I think some of the bigger takeaways that I saw is when you look at AI, we're moving from narrow AI models to broad-based foundation model, like AI models. So we used to have those AI models that do one thing. For example, in my space, being able to detect lung nodules on a CT scan of the chest. That's a narrow AI model. And now we're going to these broad AI models where you can detect many different things on a chest CT scan using one model. So that's an exciting development that was talked about a lot about at the imaging sessions.
Yeah. Now, do you live in the city or you live outside the city? Or
I live in North County is what it's called. So I live close to the beach in Carmel Valley, close to Del Mar.
Yeah. Carmel. Yeah. That's a nice area, man.
Yeah, I have two young kids, so it's nice with, in the city is not a good place to live with, at least
they'll be surfing soon.
I hope so. That'd be great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What, you look out the next couple of years, what are some of your key initiatives? Like, what are you striving to accomplish over the next couple of years?
Yeah, so what we have been focusing on mostly is providing data, and which is important, and we're seeing huge growth in that because the need for data is only increasing over time. But what we're also seeing is some companies, especially now that we are expanding towards not just providing imaging data to med device companies and radiology companies, but actually to pharma and life science companies.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing that those companies are not well equipped often to actually handle medical imaging data, like radiology data. They're not used to working with that. But they do want to learn from those images. They do want to get insights, real world evidence. So one thing that we really want to do is build an insights and analytics layer on top of the data layer that we already have built. So I think that's pretty exciting so that we can actually provide insights and not just be a data provider. That's one thing. And then the other thing that I'm excited about is we have historically mostly worked with radiology data, but we are expanding towards multimodal data. So being able to provide more clinical information, being able to provide a history of patients, risk profiles, all kinds of additional information on top of the images is exciting as well. So those are kind of the two directions.
And how did you come up? Did you come up with the idea, or your co-founder? Or?
Yeah, that was, well, actually, it's kind of interesting. So before this segment, I was working at Stanford. I was doing research there, leading the cardiovascular imaging research at the Department of Radiology. We did a lot of research. Getting data was really hard. Getting good data was really difficult. But actually, the idea that I came up with was we need to do annotations and labeling of the data, because I was actually doing that for an AI startup, and I saw, okay, there's a big need for this. But then when we started SecMed with my co-founders, we realized, okay, the market size is not that big as when you look at just full data sets and not just the annotations. And also there was a lot of competition specifically in radiology already that we actually decided to pivot relatively quickly and pivoted towards providing full data sets, which I thought initially was too big of a problem to tackle, but we decided to do it and it's going in the right direction. So I guess it was a good pivot that we made.
Awesome. And you've got a webinar coming up with Microsoft.
Actually, yeah, an in-person presentation. So we have the week after Thanksgiving is a big week for radiology because it's the RSNA, the Radiological Society of North America. It's a huge conference. It's like 30, 40, 50,000 people go to Chicago. And yes, we have a presentation there in the AI showcase area together with Microsoft where we talk about foundation models, these broad AI models that I spoke about earlier.
What do you think this space will look like in 2 years?
The radiology AI space?
Yeah.
I think, so radiology is pretty much ahead of the game when you look at, like, if you see how many software as a medical device FDA approvals have been done in radiology, it's, 70, 80% of all the FDA approvals are in the radiology space. So we're really ahead of the game when you look at other specialties. I think that will stay the same. And the advantage that radiology has is that a lot of the data is already digitized, living in PACS systems. So as long as you can get that out, which is not easy, but it's possible, and that's one of the things that we are focusing on at SecMed, then you can actually build a lot of models. So that's what's happening. I would say about 10 years ago, 5 to 10 years ago, a lot of people were thinking, okay, radiologists are going to be replaced by AI because, it's pattern recognition. AI is very good at that. So we don't need the radiologists anymore. But we haven't seen any of that. AI is definitely helpful in certain things, like being a second reader, being able to prioritize certain exams. Let's say the AI model thinks there is a pulmonary embolism on a specific CT scanner, so then it can make sure that it will be on top of the reading list of the radiologist so that the radiologist will look at that exam first before one that may not have any acute findings. So it's helpful in that kind of way, but you really need the radiologist. The human in the loop is still very, very important. So I don't think AI is going to replace radiologists, but it's definitely going to help, especially since the workload is just increasing and increasing over time. So I think AI is going to be helpful with that and not with replacing.
And is that just because right now the constraint is around hallucinations and drift, and what are some of the constraints to scale?
A lot of constraints. Just one example is, again, I get back to the narrow models versus the broad models. If you have an AI model that can find lung nodules, like small lung tumors on a chest CT scan, that is great. but you need much more than that. Like there's, what is it, about 23,000 diagnoses that a radiologist can make. And if you have AI models that can do 10 of those, I mean, it's great, but you still need the radiologist. So there's much more needed than what AI can do now. Then there are also challenges in terms of getting the diagnostic performance of these model up. Radiologists are often still better. The combination of AI plus radiologists is often the best. So that makes a lot of sense, having radiologists as a second reader have the AI as a second reader.
Is that like a 2 or 3x improvement? What type of?
No. So how you usually think about it is an area under the curve, which goes from 0% to 100%. Let's say for a specific task of a radiologist, the radiologist score 85%. Then with AI, you can maybe get to like 87, 89, 90% or so.
Okay.
So you go up a little bit, but it's not like you'll never get to 100% with most tasks, which is okay. That's just part of working in healthcare, but it can bring it up a little bit. Yeah.
Interesting. As you look out in other areas of healthcare, is there application for what you're doing? Do you see other areas where you can apply your core technology?
Yeah. So we started in radiology, but there's a lot of medical images in other specialties as well. Think about dermatology, pathology, ophthalmology. Those are all medical specialties where images are being analyzed and where you theoretically could develop AI models on as well, where you also can get real-world evidence insights from. So yes, we are definitely, and that's what I mentioned before as well, as the multimodal data. Like you start with radiology, which already has a lot of modalities, CT, X-rays, MRI, ultrasound, but going towards ophthalmology, pathology, and so on is an exciting opportunity as well, and definitely something that's on our roadmap.
No, it's really cool. So, want to get a little personal about you and your background and sort of get to know you a little better. If you could go back in time and tell your 20-year-old self, which probably isn't that long ago, something, what would it be?
What I would advise myself?
Yeah.
What I would say, keep doing what you're doing. So my track has been, I went to medical school back in the Netherlands. And then I did a PhD in medical imaging, which is very common in the Netherlands. I wanted to be a radiologist. So in order to become a radiologist, you have to do either a PhD or you have to do some clinical experience. I decided to go the PhD route, which is very common in the Netherlands. It's kind of like a clinical PhD. And then I started working as a resident in radiology, resident physician in radiology. So that was kind of the pathway that I was on. But then I kind of missed the time when I was doing my PhD research and, was working more on innovation. I didn't get too excited about the clinical work. So I decided to write some grant proposals, got a lot of rejections, but I got one acceptance, and that brought me to Stanford, and that got me 1 year postdoc at Stanford. And then the idea was I would go back, work, finish my residency, work as a radiologist, have a good life in Europe. But I never went back. It's just so
why not? Why not? That's interesting. Why not?
I got so excited. Then I came at Stanford, and that was just the whole. There was so much innovation at the university. There was a lot of opportunities there, and then there was all these people that run companies or are advisors at companies, startups, and very exciting. I got super inspired by all of this, and I decided to stay longer. Decided to not go back to clinical work. So at Stanford, I was doing research. And I loved that too. But then, of course, when you're in the Silicon Valley, and I made some friends and I, had some ideas. So I started SecMed. And for the first 3 years of SecMed, I was actually still at Stanford. So I didn't take the leap right away.
Yeah.
But after 3 years, this startup, it went a little bit out of hand. Like it grew and, got so excited, and I decided,
you had to go all in.
So I went from a clinical career to a research career to, the dark side, industry, startup.
To be an entrepreneur.
To be an entrepreneur. So those are like big pivots in my career. And if I would go back to myself as a 20-year-old, I would say, do the same thing. Just follow the excitement. Do what I have never looked back at any of the decisions I've made. it's exciting and never
That's
never a
cool.
dull moment.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. All right. Well, we always look back at one decision in our life. If you could change one decision, what would it be?
Oof.
And it could be anything. I heard someone say, I put milk in a microwave once and I'll never do that again.
Man.
That's great. Great answer.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Maybe go an entrepreneurial path earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe
Nice.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it's cool. If you weren't doing this, what would you be doing? Like, what do your passions lie? You have hobbies. What else are you passionate
Oh, if
about?
I'm not working, I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
driving around in my
Yeah.
little camper van with
Yeah.
my wife and two kids.
Would you do that?
Yeah. If I'd be early retired now, that's what I'd be
Yeah.
doing.
Just driving around the country.
Yeah, drive around the country or the
Nice.
world,
Nice.
Europe, or well, we have a little camper van here in California, so it's really cool. Like we do weekend trips or sometimes like a week trip to national
Yeah.
parks or just
Oh,
along the coast in the West Coast, and yeah, it's
yeah.
beautiful.
You been up to Big Sur?
Yes, yes. Oh yeah, I did
That's
that a
my
few
favorite
times.
place.
It's beautiful. It gets a
Where do
little
you?
cold sometimes when you're camping, but
What's that?
it
Oh, it
gets a
gets
little
cold.
cold
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
California is cold in general.
yeah, yeah.
Deceivingly. Well, except San Diego, it's always like 74 degrees all the time. Yeah, Big Sur is cool. Did you ever been to a Silomar State Park
No,
in
that
Silomar? Oh,
no,
yeah. Oh,
no,
there you
no.
go. Pacific Grove, which is on that 17-mile drive, if you know that Carmel, Monterey.
Uh-huh.
There's a little place called a Silomar, and it's a state park, and it's you get this juxtaposition of the woods, the deep woods, and then you walk
Uh-huh.
along a boardwalk, and then you go into a bluff, and then you're on the Pacific Ocean. It's just wonderful. A
Nice. Okay. Well, I'll
wonderful,
put that on the list.
yeah, it's a wonderful transition. I love California. I'm so jealous. You get to go and do day trips in a camper. It's so awesome.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
coming from the Netherlands where it rains pretty much every day, I feel like
yeah,
I live in heaven here. So,
yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. You know, it's so funny. I worked in Ireland and I spent a lot of time in Amsterdam and I always would say, it doesn't really rain as much as people say. I think it's like I think people say that because they don't want a lot of people here. It's so beautiful. It's so
maybe that's it.
beautiful. So,
It is beautiful. It is beautiful. It's a
uh,
good country. Yeah.
yeah, Amsterdam is just a wonderful place. Ever been to Copenhagen?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ever been to a place called Christiania?
That does not ring a bell.
Oh, okay.
Cristania.
Christiania. Not many people know about it. It's this 1 mile block of land that in the 70s, the government, it used to be a barracks for the police. And so squatters basically, after they cleared it out and they moved the barracks, squatters came in, they sort of lived there. And so the government said, we're gonna try something. We're gonna deed that land over to the people that are there living there and we're gonna give them the ability to build their own government as an experiment. Literally, it's called Christiania, and and of course, what did they turn it into? They turned it into a Grateful Dead party. So it's like it's like going back into the '60s and free love and amazing bikes. They do make amazing bikes there, but you should check
Nice.
it out if you ever get to Denmark. Check out this little 1 mile patch of and there's a 4-star 5-star Michelin restaurant there called Spizalopen. And literally it's on top, it's like the fourth floor of a burnt out barracks. Like the barracks is like
Uh,
graffitied over. You would never know there's a restaurant there unless someone told you. You go to this big door at the top of the stairs and it's got graffiti all over it. And you're like, what am I? And you open the door, it's just this wonderful restaurant there. And really, I don't know if it's still there. I mean, it was there a couple of years ago when I was there, but
That's
if you
awesome.
get out there, check
I'll
that
have to
out
go there. Yeah.
and check that restaurant out. It's incredible food.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, Michelin star restaurants are always good, especially if it has multiple stars, of course.
Yes, exactly. Okay. You're on a desert island. You can bring 5 records with you, 5 albums. What would they be?
Okay, I'm not really a music listener, but
Movies? How about movies?
I would bring Back to the Future 1, Back
Yeah.
to the Future 2, and Back to the Future 3.
And then Hot Tub 1 and Hot Tub 2. No.
Yeah, I like bad movies, like bad comedies. I love Back to the Future, but
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I would probably
that's a
be.
great. That's epic. That's an iconic movie, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. What's the riskiest thing you've ever done?
Well, I think the riskiest thing is making those pivots in my career, like having a safe career path of,
Hmm.
working clinically and becoming a radiologist and moving away from that. I think was pretty risky. And then going from, like a nice academic career to a startup founder, entrepreneur, I think those are
You have to be
risky.
a little insane
Yeah, not just a little.
to do that. You have
Definitely, definitely.
your eyes got really vacant there for a second. So I was like, where did we get? Where did you go, Martin? Come back, come back. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
true though. It's like the life of an entrepreneur. What was,
yeah.
when you jumped in, like what were some of the things that were like, oh my God, I didn't realize this.
Yeah. Well, so I said the first 3 years I was still at Stanford, but then
Yeah.
I made the jump and I became the CEO of SecMed. And what I didn't realize is a CEO of a early stage startup is just a lot of it, like you try to run the business and everything. Luckily, I had good co-founders who were helping with that. I spent a lot of time with investors just trying to fundraise
Yeah. Yeah.
and learning to speak that language, learning to understand financials, having no experience at all. That was interesting in the beginning that I didn't realize. I mean, I learned a lot about it. I feel like now I can talk to a VC, like an
Yeah.
investor, and speak their language. But in the beginning, not really.
What advice would you give to a new entrepreneur that's looking to fundraise?
I think the number one most important thing is try to raise as least as possible.
Yeah. Amen.
Because the dilution from investments, it's just in the beginning you don't really think about that because it's all paper money, like the valuation of your company. I mean,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
beginning it's
Yeah.
nothing. But once you get a little later on, you start to realize, oh, okay, what if we had just raised a few $1 million less, than all these kind of things. So yeah,
Yeah.
try to raise as least as possible. That's the number one I would give.
And how about regarding culture?
Culture, yeah. So we actually are a fully remote company. We have like a mailbox in Palo Alto, but we live everywhere. Like our company, everybody can live everywhere, which is very nice. But it's also really hard to build a good culture
Yeah.
when people are different places. So in terms of leadership team, we meet up at conferences regularly, and I think those in-person meetings are very, very important
Hmm.
um, to build a good and sustainable culture. We actually last week celebrated two people that have been for 5 years at the company
Nice.
now. I think that's a good sign that we have
Yeah.
good retention and people want to stay. But it's definitely not easy building a good culture as a remote company.
Yeah.
Coming out of clinical and academia world, you're all at the university or at the hospital very
Right.
close, and that's different now.
What were some of the things that you learned to do to keep folks together, even though you're in this remote setting? What were some of I'm sure you tried things and tried other
Yeah,
things that
yeah.
worked and
Yeah, we've tried a lot of things. We've organized like virtual activities, like creative things where you paint and I don't know, all these kind of things.
yeah.
We've done weekly like games.
Oh, cool.
Like on Friday mornings we did games which actually worked for some people. Like I loved doing it. We had maybe
Mm.
like 4 or 5 people that came every week and then the rest never showed up because
Yeah.
they didn't care about it. I think
Yeah.
that's okay actually. If you have a few people that really thrive by those kind of activities, then you should just keep doing it because those
Yeah.
people will be happy and or happier. Yeah, I think what we did last year, which was successful but expensive, we actually flew a bunch of people in to a conference, the RSNA conference, in like the big radiology conference. And we did like a cooking class and we did,
Oh,
like
nice.
team building activities in person, which is nice. But you can't do that too often. It's too expensive. But we just raised a Series A round. We had some money in the bank. We were like, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, it's
Uh,
important. You got to find ways to, especially in a remote, environment, you got to find ways to keep the connection and develop the connection, right?
yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. Um, no, this has been terrific. Any last thoughts or any last comments for listeners?
Not really. Just if they ever need imaging data, they can knock on our on our door.
No, that's a great point. How can they get in touch with you?
LinkedIn, Martin Willemink. That's where I'm most active. I used to be on Twitter or X, but not really
Yeah,
anymore. So LinkedIn.
everyone's on LinkedIn. And then what's your website address?
Segmed.ai. So SEGMED, segmed.ai.
Excellent. We'll put that in the notes as well. Martin, pleasure. Nice to meet you. Thanks for joining the program. This is Ed Gaudet from the Risk Never Sleeps program. If you're on the front lines protecting patient safety and delivering patient care, remember to stay vigilant because risk never sleeps.